All right. Good morning again. And thank you once again for joining the call. I'm going to assume that everyone else is coming to the training on the 19th. So we'll go ahead and get started. I know we blocked a lot of time off for you to be in this training today. It will not take as long as I scheduled off, but I do like to add the extra time just in case. And with that, we will go ahead and get started. All of you, I've worked with all of you before, but I'm Caitlin. I'm the AmeriCorps Program Director at the Homeless and Housing Coalition of Kentucky. And the other staff person that we have that works with our AmeriCorps program is Holly Dennis, and she is out this week for her sister's wedding. So we're very happy for her, but we will miss her today and this week. Again, all of you have worked with AmeriCorps before, so you are very familiar with AmeriCorps. Because this is a federally funded program, we get to go through all of this every year with you. So thanks for listening in on this part. AmeriCorps overview. AmeriCorps is a federally funded national service program through the federal AmeriCorps agency. We've been around in the direct service capacity since 1994. We are housed through the Homeless and Housing Coalition of Kentucky, and we're supported by the Serve Kentucky State Commission, which oversees all the AmeriCorps direct service programs in the state. There are over 22. There are many different areas. There's disaster services, education, seniors, work with seniors, disaster response, all that good stuff. Homes for All is the only Kentucky program that is primarily focused on housing and homelessness in the state, and our goal is to provide services to 2,500 individuals and house 1,000 of them. We have three types of members that serve in our direct service program. We have construction members, members that work primarily with people that are unhoused, and then people that provide housing services, so helping people apply for new homes or home repair. Our program year does start August 1st and go until July 31st of the following year. And we work mostly with three different position slots. The first is 1,700 hour. Then we do work with 900 hour members. And then occasionally we bring on 1,200 hours as well. These are the sites that we anticipate working with over this coming year. We are concentrated in Central Kentucky, but we do have some presence in Western Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky, Northern Kentucky as well. The type of language that we use, excuse me, when talking about AmeriCorps, we call it service language. So we're going to use terms like AmeriCorps member, their term of service. We talk about their living allowance. We're not going to use language such as hire or work. Our AmeriCorps members are not interns. We don't employ them or anything like that. So we appreciate you using this language as well. It helps make it clear to the member that that's the type of language they should be using as well. Okay, now we'll talk a little bit about partnering with the AmeriCorps program and what that means for us as the AmeriCorps program and what that means for you as the service site. HHCK's role. So at the program level, we're responsible for staying in full compliance of the federal regulations that award this AmeriCorps grant to different organizations. We're going to complete all the necessary member background checks. We're going to help train and orient members. We provide site members with support. We really focus on encouraging member development and growth. And we'll report on program goals and member progress to the federal AmeriCorps agency. In partnership with you, we will help make sure AmeriCorps members are eligible and enrolled to begin service, meaning they've done their AmeriCorps application, their member paperwork, and completed all their background checks. We'll work with you to supervise and support members. We know we're not on site every day. We're on site, only a couple days, maybe a year. But that is what we want to do. We want to help support you in supervising the members and mentoring them as well. We'll work with you to guarantee member safety, so not only from, physical harm, like with our construction members, but we're talking about mental health and all of that stuff as well. And then we hope that you support the goals of the Homes for All AmeriCorps program as well, that you believe in the mission of AmeriCorps, you see the good that it can do, and help support what we're trying to do. What we're asking of you as a service site that's hosting an AmeriCorps member, we're asking you to provide that quality supervision and mentorship, that you don't just see an AmeriCorps member as, a warm body there to answer the phones or things like that. We ask that you offer the tools to help the member be successful. So if they need office space, the equipment required to be successful in the position, technology, if they need a laptop, access to a phone, access to the internet, that you do provide those tools for them. We ask for your help in collecting data on the type of services that your members are providing. We'll talk more about that in a few slides, but we do need your help with that. We also need you to stay in communication with our staff. So let us know what's going on. We're here to help you, and we're here to help your AmeriCorps member. And we do like to reach out to you all, but we never want you to hesitate to call us if there's something you think we can step in and address. We also like to hear about good things. So if your member's done something really awesome, we'd love to hear about that as well. Again, supporting the goals of AmeriCorps and the AmeriCorps members' development. And ultimately, we need our sites to ensure that the member has sufficient opportunity to complete their term of service and required hours. We'll talk more about the terms of service in a couple minutes, but we do need the site to have that capacity. So if you're only needing someone to serve 20 hours a week, a full-time member is probably not going to be the option for you. So we can talk about that separately. All right. I think all of you have probably found your member. Just looking real quick, but if not, we're going to go through this real quickly. The first thing, recruiting, is advertising, and then the second part is interviewing. So we did provide some guidance through a PDF that we release every year with updated information, and then we do have a YouTube video to supplement what that packet talks about. What we're doing, we're managing and screening candidates on a few different platforms. We've had several hits on some sites and not that much interest on other sites. But when we do have people that respond to us, we set up a time to screen them for their eligibility. So can they serve a full-time schedule? Can they pass these background checks? Can they attend trainings? All the basic parts of AmeriCorps. And then if they meet that eligibility, we'll forward them to you for consideration. We ask that sites interview and advertise as well. So you are more connected to your community than we are. You might have board members or volunteers that can help. Maybe a volunteer is even interested in serving as an AmeriCorps member. Maybe you have a former intern you could reach out to. We ask that you share information about AmeriCorps as well. We provide a couple materials for you to do that with. And we know that we're the AmeriCorps staff, so we should be doing most of that sharing. But again, it helps when you give that information as well, because then the member gets it from 2 different ears. They hear from 2 different people, and they understand the importance of the AmeriCorps aspect of it. And then if you do find, or when you do find a candidate that you want to bring on as your AmeriCorps member, we have a specific form that we're using called the member recommendation form. And it includes questions that we'd like you to ask in the interview when you're meeting with applicants. We know there's some challenges associated with recruiting, and it seems to get harder each year. We know AmeriCorps benefits can be a barrier for people serving in this program. I completely understand. I know it can be frustrating. I know it's not a living wage. AmeriCorps is not considered employment, so the federal AmeriCorps agency is never going to be benefits totally compatible with employment. But we can talk about the professional development experience they'll gain, what other benefits are available to them in the program and help sell it that way. And that's where we can really step in and help with that. And then I know that people have been ghosted, unfortunately, by candidates. You set up a time to speak with them, they don't call, or they don't answer the call, or they don't show up. And I understand that frustration. And I just wanted to say that we empathize with you in that. After we find the candidates that you want to bring on as your AmeriCorps member, we work with them on paperwork and getting them enrolled. So the first piece to it is completing an application on the myamericorps.gov website. We can help them get that submitted. We also have them fill out a pretty comprehensive enrollment paperwork packet. This includes what we call the member service agreement, which is also, you can look at that as a contract. Essentially, it lines out policies, procedures, all that fun stuff. It gives us consent to run background checks and a few other documents that we need. And after we have that electronic paperwork packet, we work with them on completing their criminal history background checks. In our program, the only thing that automatically prevents people from serving is if they are required to register on the sex offender registry, or if they have been charged or convicted of murder. So we do believe in reentry and second chances, and we'll work with, just about anybody that we can to serve in this program. After we have run their background checks and received the other two paperwork pieces, we'll work with them on enrollment. They have to complete a form in their MyAmeriCorps portal within 5 days of starting service. So you'll hear from us a lot to nail down when that start date is. And that means the first day that the member has served hours with you. If you are still having trouble finding a candidate, we do want you to have an AmeriCorps member. And we can push the AmeriCorps start further into the year. We don't do it later than September 12th, and that's because we still want to give members as much time as possible to serve 1,700 hours, because the program year will still end July 31st regardless, and we don't want to cut the amount of time they have to too short of a period where we're automatically setting them up to be unsuccessful. All right, member orientation. Before the member arrives, we want our sites to explain the AmeriCorps program and member role to other staff if you are a new service site, or if you are a site that has new staff that have come on board recently. You can order business cards and name tags if that's something you have done or you'd like to do. We just add that you add the AmeriCorps logo to it, and I can send you that download to do so. You are welcome to create an email address for the member to use. I know some sites use specific email addresses, like with someone's name. We have other sites that just use AmeriCorps member at whatever. So it's up to you. I would kindly advise that your member does not use a personal email for any service site related activity. Check in with your incoming member frequently and help them if they don't know where your office is, or if they've only been there once or twice. Make sure they have the directions and lay out any expectations for the first day. So what time do you want them on site? Where should they be? All that stuff. And then if you have any questions, please contact our staff. This is a very brief outline of what your service site orientation should look like. We had more detail in the service site application. You already told us what you were going to do with your orientation, and it all sounds good to us. But here are a few things that we want to highlight. We want to make sure that we welcome the AmeriCorps member. So it doesn't have to be, an all-out big parade, but do take the time to introduce them to other staff. Give them a tour of your organization. Maybe you could take them to lunch or have a lunch, or, your coworkers meet for lunch in a break room or things like that. Invite them to that time. Housekeeping items, walk with them through office logistics, show them the supply area, give them any supplies they need. how your parking situation works, go through mail, how does mail work? Who distributes it? Where do you put outgoing mail? Showing them how to use the phone, email, and your server. So maybe use Google Suite, helping them understand how to access that, and then giving them any keys that they might need. Position training, we know this doesn't happen in one day, that it can take several days, up to a month, up to several months, depending on your member. But your site is going to be the one providing more specific instruction on how to complete their member responsibilities successfully when it comes to what their position type is. So if you have a member providing case management, you'll work with them on how to conduct that case management. We provide, I would say, more broad guidance throughout their service year on some of these topics, but you know what your organization's looking for. You know what type of styles you need with your member in terms of them performing their activities. So that's why we ask you to provide that training. There's a document called Member and Site Expectations Agreement. This is something that we started doing last year, and I think it worked really well. So we're going to continue it into this year. This is, I think it's about 2 pages where you sit down with your member and fill out your mutual expectations. So what the schedule is going to be each day, what your communication styles are, what the member should do when they need to call in sick, office etiquette, all that kind of information. You both sign off on it and then you send it to our office. We'd like this agreement because it helps us clarify any confusion with the AmeriCorps member if we run into any issues later in the year. We can look at that document and say, hey, you've had this information since the start of the year. What's going on? Why have things changed? And then in the first month, we recommend adding them to any training opportunities that you might have, providing them with any reading that would help them better understand their position, and adding them to any listservs or standing calls or team meetings, things like that. All right, our AmeriCorps orientation. So we are very excited that we will be hosting an in-person member orientation for the first time since 2019. We know that COVID is still very real, that there's lots of transmission going on. We have a new variant. So we do have large enough meeting spaces so people can distance. We have masks, hand sanitizer, cleaning supplies, and then members will be able to have a single room. We're not going to ask members to room together like we have in previous years. The training will be at the Capitol Plaza Hotel in Frankfurt, and we provide mileage reimbursement. We provide all of the meals and then lodging as well. The agenda on the screen is a quick rundown of what we'll be talking about. We'll be helping them understand AmeriCorps, what it is, what they've committed to, what it means to be an AmeriCorps member, the values of service, things like that. We'll talk about homeless and housing issues in Kentucky. We'll walk with them through policies, procedures, prohibited activities, all the nuts and bolts of service. We'll talk with them about their member development plan, what we're hoping they'll learn and do throughout their service year, and we'll talk to you about that in a couple minutes. We'll go through self-care and some boundaries and ethics, and then we leave room for everyone's favorite team building. All right, now we're going to dive a little more deeply into the member service year. Once again, the AmeriCorps program year begins August 1st and goes through July 31st of 2023. Members are enrolled in different position slot types. Most of our members are 1,700-hour members. If we bring on 1,200-hour members, it's because we weren't able to find a member for you to have for 1,700 hours. So then we'll work with 1,200-hour members because, again, we do want you to have an AmeriCorps member this year. And then we have some 900-hour positions as well. The exact weekly schedule that your member serves, you'll work with them on that. We don't get too involved in that decision. but it must account for about 37.5 hours a week of service. We do explain that this is a full-time commitment for our full-time members, and we want them to serve 37.5 hours per week because it puts them in a really good place to finish their hours by July 31st. It also sets them up to be able to take that leave during the year if needed. So we do leave space for members to take 10 personal or vacation days. They have up to 10 sick days. And then we have 11 holidays. And you might be looking at this and saying, wow, that's a lot of time off. And we do understand that. We do explain to members that they don't have to take all of their sick time if they're not sick or they don't have medical issues, that they don't have to do that because they don't use their sick time as extra personal or vacation days. But we do build that in because members get sick or they need to address their mental health, things like that. So the leave really, it works well if the members stay on track with their hours and they're serving that 37.5 per week. Member benefit. So thanks to the American Rescue Plan Act funding, AmeriCorps, our budget was increased, and as a result, the amount that we received increased. So we were able to increase the living allowance from $16,002, or I'm sorry, $16,502 to $19,000. I know that's still not a huge increase, but it is a little bit that we were able to offer because of that funding. The education award for a full-time member is $6,495. Members do receive professional development and training during their service year. If they do not have health insurance, they can sign up with us. It is a full comprehensive coverage plan, and we pay the premium. Members whose household is income eligible can sign up for child care assistance. We cover them under our workers' compensation plan. And during a non-pandemic year, members can put their eligible student loans into forbearance and then have their interest that accrued paid by the National Service Trust. And then all members in our program are enrolled in something called a member assistance program. It's very similar to an employee assistance program. They have access to mental health resources. They call it a concierge service, so helping them find other services in their community as well. And so we'll talk a lot about that with your members at orientation. We want them to take advantage of this program. It's there's free counseling sessions with certified counselors, licensed counselors. So we're happy to offer this program, and we hope more members take advantage of it this year. The member position description. So this is a separate document from their member service agreement. The position description really narrows down what they're doing during their service term. 90% of their required hours are spent on service site activities. So that on-site, everyday effort that they're giving you. So case management, I know I refer to that one all the time, but construction or housing services or financial literacy training, all that good stuff. 10% of your members' hours are reserved for AmeriCorps program activities. So this does include trainings and events that we'll talk about, performance measure reporting that we will also talk about, and then their time spent communicating with us. So their emails with us, they're allowed to talk with us during the day, things like that. They can count hours for that. The position description also includes the minimum eligibility to serve in the AmeriCorps program, minimum requirements of the position, and then the essential functions. Timesheet. So we use a system called America Learns. With our AmeriCorps Direct Service members, we'll be moving to a weekly timesheet system. We had been working with a bi-weekly period, but we've just run into several challenges with members not staying up to date with their timesheets and then getting paid, receiving the living allowance without, and we didn't have record of them serving. And then it just too often it seemed that members we're running into issues with their hours. So unfortunately, that has affected our members that were doing what they should have been doing. And now members will be submitting timesheets weekly. Some exciting things happening with AmeriCorps Learns. There is a phone app coming this fall that should be compatible with all different devices. So it should be a lot easier for them to submit their timesheets. We can help show members how to copy and paste if they have similar schedules each day. So it shouldn't be too much harder for members to get their timesheets in weekly if they were already staying up to date with it anyway. You do get notified when your member submits a timesheet. If you want to run in and approve it as you receive that notification, I think that's great. But at the very least, we're asking you to approve their time at least once a month. Performance measures. So I like to talk to sites about our performance measures and the goals of our AmeriCorps program, so you understand what your member needs to be doing on a monthly basis for our AmeriCorps program purposes. Your members are going to tell us about the number of individuals they served. And when I say served, I'm talking about meaningful engagement. So they're not going to report to us on every household that calls or walks in. But if it moves to the next step where the member is providing services to those individuals, they're going to tell us about that. We're not asking for any identifying or confidential information. I'm not asking for people's addresses or social security numbers or anything like that. But I do want, are there 2 adults in the household? How many kids, if any? What their ages are? Things like that. If you have concerns about the type of data that we're collecting, I would love to talk with you after site supervisor training about what it is and why we're collecting it. We want to respect people's privacy and the confidentiality of your clients, but we do have to capture the type of impact AmeriCorps members are having. After individuals are served, ideally, we're able to move them into housing or help them maintain their housing. And then when that happens, your members are going to tell us about that as well. They're going to tell us the type of or the proof of housing. So that means, that a permanent supportive housing voucher was issued or that construction was completed, things like that. Some of our members do recruit, train, and manage volunteers. And if they do that, they're going to report to us on that work as well. So you're going to tell us the number of volunteers, whether they were episodic and they just came one time to volunteer, or if they were recurring, and then the number of hours that they served or volunteered, sorry. Reporting on performance measures, there's a few things, again, that we're going to ask from you in this. But first, the member's responsibility is to complete this reporting by the 15th of the month for the previous month. So for example, when they're talking about people served in October, new people served, they'll report on them by the 15th of November. Anybody that they're reporting on is the people that they're working with. So maybe the household was in services before the AmeriCorps member started working with them, but this type of reporting is all about the AmeriCorps members' work with these individuals. So they're going to tell us when they started working with these households. We look through data regularly. We notice if members are not reporting. So we do ask and expect of them to respond to and complete any requests from our staff as soon as possible. If they're missing data, we don't ask for it, within 4 hours. We do give them some time to get it done, but we don't want them to get so behind that then they're having to spend hours catching up this, right before their term of service ends. Our responsibility in making sure performance measure reporting is done is to train members on how to do it. So we provide an initial training at our orientation. We provide ongoing training throughout the year, and then we work with members one-on-one to get it done. We review what they've submitted regularly, and then we gather all the data and talk about it to the Federal AmeriCorps agency. What we're asking from you in this is supporting efforts to receive the performance measure data. So you have received this information. I ask that when we talk about it later in the year, if we're missing something from your member, that you help make sure your member is turning in what they need to. I would argue that 95% of our members do what they're supposed to and get it in. We don't have to involve the site supervisor, but sometimes that doesn't happen. And so if we do reach out to you, it means that we've tried everything with your member to get it in. So when it comes to that time, if it does, we ask for your help in making sure we get what we need. And I guess one final thing I would say on this is members that are reporting, they can count the time spent doing that as part of their AmeriCorps service hours. So occasionally we've heard from members that they didn't think they could do it during the day while they're supposed to be serving, but they can, and we ask for you to make space for them to do that. It should not occupy hours upon hours of their time if they're staying up to date with it, but making that space for them to do it is much appreciated. Since we are funded competitively directly from the Federal AmeriCorps agency, and we're over a certain amount, we have to evaluate our program conducting a quasi-experimental design. And it's about assessing the impact of the AmeriCorps member. We have done a program evaluation in previous years, but I wanted to share with our Central Kentucky sites that we'll be working specifically with your AmeriCorps members on this program evaluation. What we'll need from your member is not much more than what we're already asking for from them in terms of performance measure reporting. But again, I did want to share with you. So in case we have to reach out to you because we need your help getting this information for our program evaluation, that it's not, news to you, that you have heard of this program evaluation. If you have any questions on what it means that your site's involved in this area, in this program evaluation, I would love to talk with you after training as well. Member development. So something else that we started in our last grant cycle, and it kind of got a little wonky, but we're hoping that we're able to deliver it as it was intended with this upcoming grant cycle, is our member development plan. And the purpose of our member development plan is to help members intentionally participate in the AmeriCorps program overall and the AmeriCorps experience, that they're not just what they're doing at their site, that they are part of something larger and more meaningful and impactful. Not saying that the work you do at your site is not impactful and meaningful. It absolutely is. But the mission of AmeriCorps is for the community overall. We're hoping to strengthen members' active citizenship and encourage a civic engagement mindset. So they'll continue this type of work after their service is over. So maybe it's in their career, maybe it's just being more involved in their community afterwards. But we don't want this to be a one-year experience. We want them to continue what they've learned after their service is over. It starts with goal setting and then reflections throughout their service year. And then we look at 4 different components for our member development. So the first is the Martin Luther King Day of Service. Every member will be involved with a service project or program during that time. We bring our members in for a spring service project, and that really looks to the construction aspect of our program. So members might be helping repair somebody's home or build a new home in the spring. We know members have a range of abilities. People might not have construction experience. We help find a fit for them, whatever that may look like, but we do want members to be involved. Then we look to the other part of our program, so housing services or homeless services. The most obvious choice for members to participate in this component is to participate in the K count or point in time count that occurs in the winter each year. But we do have other suggestions for members if they don't have the option to participate in a local point in time count. And then we work with members on a public speaking activity. So helping members feel more comfortable speaking to a group. It also provides them the opportunity to share more information about AmeriCorps and the impact AmeriCorps is having and about your service site as well. So some members have spoken with local civic groups, churches, colleges. So very flexible, open-ended activity. We want them to kind of figure out what works best for them, but we'll help guide them through that when the time comes. Other trainings and events. So when I talk to you about these events, I'm talking about trainings, events, and projects that were agreed to when the member filled out their paperwork, their service agreement. Our service sites agreed to it when they applied for a member and signed their service agreement with us. And it's part of the 10% of hours reserved from the AmeriCorps members' total hours. So monthly member trainings are the first ones that I'm going to talk about. This is on or around the 15th of every month, and that's where we provide program updates on our Ring Central platform. It's a virtual meeting, and then we like to provide a special topic. So a few weeks ago, or maybe a month ago, I did ask for input from sites on what they'd like to see their members learn about during their term of service. And so these were some of the suggestions we received. We do not have our calendar set in stone. So if there is something that you would like your member to be trained on, shoot us an email and we'll see if we can fit it in. We are looking to provide training around crisis prevention and intervention, trauma-informed care, implicit bias, time management, and resiliency. The next major event after AmeriCorps orientation is AmeriCorps launch. This is with all Kentucky AmeriCorps members serving in the Commonwealth. It's put on by our Serve Kentucky State Commission, and it's October 26th and 27th in Richmond. We'll provide, once again, the mileage reimbursement, lodging, and meals. For some members that have to drive a far distance, we'll invite them to come the night before so they don't have to get up too early. We'll provide more details to you as we have them as it gets closer, but mark that off on your calendar that your member will not be available those 2 days. Site visits happen in the fall for everyone, and then as needed, we come back and visit in the spring, and it's our opportunity to see how the members are integrating into your organization, making sure they're on track, answering any questions. We like to see the good work they're doing, and we'll also meet with you as well. In the spring, we have AmeriCorps Week. So your members won't be off site for this. They will still be with you, but it's a chance for us to celebrate your AmeriCorps members. So we will be asking for photos, talking about AmeriCorps members on social media each day and celebrating what they do. And then we have our end of year training that's in summer. It's typically in the early part of July, typically right after the 4th. We just had our first in-person one this past week, and it was great being with so many of our AmeriCorps members in person again. So yeah, if you have any questions on trainings or events, please let me know. The only other thing I want to add is that we know members have lots of responsibilities. So we have members that are parents, maybe single parents, they might be in school, they might be taking care of their parents or other loved ones. So we will work with members to make sure they're able to participate. We do understand that maybe something comes up or something would prevent them from attending these events. We just don't want it to be a habit if we can avoid that. And we ask that they stay in communication with us. So I'll work with any member on fulfilling their obligations as long as they talk with me up front about what their needs are. Okay, member supervision and support. What we need from you all as site supervisors, if we haven't said it a million times, I'll say it again. We are asking for a comprehensive training and orientation for your member. It really helps give them the first impression of what their service year is going to look like. So while we know you wear many different hats and you have lots of responsibilities at your organization, taking the time to make sure the member is integrated into your organization is really key to the success of their service here. Reviewing any relevant policies or procedures before the member starts to serve people directly or provide those construction services. Dedicating time to meet with your member each week, even if you're not able to have a formal check-in every week, giving them, 15, 20 minutes of your time, which may be a lot, but making sure that they are on track, that they know what's going on, what they're supposed to be doing, and then answer any questions, and then offering them that support if they need it. We're asking you to serve not only as a supervisor, but as a coach and mentor, since AmeriCorps is that professional development and personal growth opportunity. Ensure timely approval of member timesheets, so at least once a month that you're logging into America Learns to approve time. You'll complete member evaluations twice per year. We'll talk about that in a couple minutes. If there's any changes in supervision, if you're leaving your position or your organization's just restructuring and the supervisor is moving, please let us know that ahead of time if you're able to. And then stay in regular communication with our staff. Member evaluations, again, that's 2 times per year. The first one is sort of at the midpoint of their service here, and then at the end of their service term or at the end of the year. There are 2 parts to it. The first is program performance. So are they fulfilling their AmeriCorps responsibilities well? Are they submitting timesheets? Are they staying in communication with our office? Are they showing up for trainings? Are they engaged with those trainings? Are they submitting their performance measures? The second part is the service side performance. So what are they doing well for your organization? Things to include in the evaluation. We love to see positive feedback, constructive feedback, and then we don't want the member to see anything new. So if you're adding anything that's been an issue, we don't want the evaluation to be the first time you've addressed it. We're hoping that you've at least had a conversation with them before it gets to that formal evaluation point. Your organization can support and develop your members in several different ways. So a few of the more formal ways you can offer that development is through training or professional development opportunities, bringing them into staff meetings or retreats. And then informal ways you're able to offer that is through your weekly or biweekly check-ins, when you have an open door policy, and then through that mentorship as well. AmeriCorps member support. The first way that you can support your AmeriCorps member is by increasing their living allowance. The maximum living allowance for this year is $33,004. You do not have to offer the full amount. If you are interested in increasing, you can increase it by $5,000 or whatever. You also don't have to do any of this at all. It's not expected. It's not required. We do know that some sites, though, are interested in offering additional support outside of their regular benefits. You can provide some housing assistance, maybe some rent payments or mortgage payments, food or gift cards. We know a lot of our sites like to offer holiday gift cards, Visa cards, Shell cards, Walmart, things like that. If your agency offers any clothing or promotional items, so maybe a jacket or a cardigan with with your organization's logo, feel free to, share that with your member. You do not have to offer them health insurance, because if they need health insurance, they can get it through us. So just ignore that whole part. And then again, that ongoing training. So maybe your organization has access to an NeighborWorks training or is planning to send people to the Kentucky Affordable Housing Conference. Maybe you can send your member as well. All right. After training is over, you're going to get a document called the Service Side Agreement. You'll have signed it each year before. It really outlines all of what we talked about, as well as a few more policies. But what I'm going to do now is highlight the most important ones. The first being prohibited activities. So this is what a member absolutely cannot do while they are accruing service hours or representing AmeriCorps or under the appearance of representing AmeriCorps. So they shouldn't wear their t-shirt or sweatshirt to go do any of this stuff, including attempting to influence legislation, organizing or engaging in protests, petitions, boycotts, or strikes, assisting, promoting, or deterring union organization, impairing existing contracts for services or collective bargaining agreements, engaging in partisan political activities, or other activities designed to influence the outcome of an election, participating in or endorsing events or activities that are likely to include advocacy for or against political parties, political platforms, political candidates, proposed legislation, or elected officials, engaging in religious instruction, conducting worship services, providing instruction, constructing or operating facilities devoted to religious instruction, all that good stuff. They also cannot provide a direct benefit to a business organized for profit, a labor union, partisan political organization, a nonprofit organization that fails to comply with the restrictions contained in 501c3, or an organization engaged in the religious activities described in the paragraph before, conducting a voter registration drive or using corporation funds to conduct a voter registration drive, providing abortion services or referrals for receipt of such services, and such other activities as the corporation may prohibit. Again, individuals may exercise their rights as private citizens and may participate in those activities above on their own initiative on non-AmeriCorps time and using non-AmeriCorps funds. AmeriCorps members should not wear the AmeriCorps logo while doing so. So we run into a couple questions every year with members on this stuff. And we just explain to them over and over again. I mean, it is a federally funded program. There are certain rules you have to follow. AmeriCorps is not trying to infringe on their rights as private citizens. AmeriCorps members also cannot recruit, train, or manage volunteers to do any of this stuff. Okay, COVID-19 and teleservice. So before the pandemic hit, we did have teleservice. When I say teleservice, I'm just talking about serving remotely. We had a restriction on it that members could not do more than 5% of their hours, and it had to be in very specific circumstances. We have a bit looser regulations because we're still in a pandemic, but we are recommending that members serve on site when possible. Just because if they are not serving on site, we need to have a more established structure when they are not on site. So we have to have very clear guidelines from you and your organization on how you're staying in regular communication with your member, how you're making sure they're doing what they're supposed to, how you're verifying what their hours are. I know sometimes we just want to trust our members and they're doing what they're supposed to, but AmeriCorps likes us to be a little more, likes us to regulate that a little more. So we'll need to work with you on that. I know some of our organizations, HHCK is one of them. We're working on hybrid schedule, so people are able to serve from home or work from home 3 days a week. So if that's the case, we do still need a bit more clear guidance from you on how that's going to work. And then some of you may be like, no, my member's going to be here all the time. And if that's the case, that's great. Vaccine expectations versus requirements. So your organization can mandate that an AmeriCorps member has a vaccine, but they're going to have that before they start service. So they can't start service and then all of a sudden you say they're required to get it. We do ask that you still follow health and safety protocols when it comes to COVID. So if your organization is still wearing masks, you can make your member wear a mask, things like that. Transportation and mileage. So if you have any expectations for your member to be transporting clients, whether it's in a personal vehicle or their own vehicle, personal vehicle or an organization's vehicle, inform them of any of those expectations before they begin their service. If they're using their own vehicle to transport those clients or conduct home visits, we need you to reimburse them at the same rate you would for a standard employee. And you'll want to keep a copy of their valid driver's license and auto insurance for their vehicle on file. If, again, though, we're bringing them in for something, we'll provide that mileage reimbursement. AmeriCorps branding. So you may have already seen it on hopefully every one of these slides. So we have a new logo in effect starting this year. So that's the logo that we should see on everything. Please use it on any business cards or name tags you make for your member. They should use it in their email signature. If you add information about your AmeriCorps member to your website, please include that logo. And speaking of that, your organization must identify itself as an AmeriCorps service site. So we'll be sending you updated signage that says AmeriCorps member serving here. And it just has to be visible somewhere in your organization. So whether it's in your member's office, in the front door, whatever. But when we show up on site for our site visit, we want to be able to see that somewhere easily. Members also need to be wearing something with the logo at all times. We provide a couple pieces of clothing. We don't provide like full uniforms every day, but we also provide other items that have the AmeriCorps logo on it. So pins, buttons, stickers, journals, water bottles. We have so many different items that we'll be sending your member. And so they should have something with the logo every day. All right, member safety. So you already wrote about this in your site application. You're anticipating and planning for safety issues. If something were to happen where they need to make a workers' compensation claim, they do have access to do that. Please call me or Holly as soon as something comes up. So if a member slips and falls or anything like that, then we'll help you complete the claim form and then we'll submit it to our workers' compensation company. Something I want to touch on real quickly is just your members' mental health. So as you are already familiar with, this is a very challenging field. It's hard work that they're doing. And I know over and over again, we say this, it's not employment, it's not a job, but they are working and they're working really hard and they're making not much money for doing it. So with that said, please be mindful of your members' mental health. We do have the member assistance program to help them receive that assistance if they could benefit from it. If your member experiences something during their service year, like witnessing a client overdose or walking in on someone that's deceased, please call us. We want to know about it because we want your member to have a safe place to talk to and process that through, so they can call us. They may not feel comfortable calling us, that's fine, but we want them to know it's an option for them to do that. And then ultimately we want to help them access that member assistance program so they can, process it with someone that is licensed. Standards of conduct and corrective action. So we do have standards of conduct that we have all members sign off on and agree to. And it includes things like, being a respectful, kind human, showing up, doing what you're supposed to, being engaged, things like that. And then we have different levels of conduct violations. So we're talking about continued tardies, multiple absences, showing up to service under the influence, inappropriate contact with a client. It ranges. That's why we have different levels, because we have different remedies depending on the severity of the issue. So we have a form called the Corrective Action Plan. And if you have a member that violates any of these standards of conduct, you're going to use that form. It's also a form that we'll use if we're seeing something from our end. So, they're not doing their performance measure reporting regularly, if they're not submitting their timesheets regularly. If you're having performance-based issues, so members that are struggling with how to provide case management, or they're taking a bit longer to understand KHC documentation paperwork, things like that, you're going to use something called the member action plan. Regardless, at any time, if you have any concerns about your members' performance, whether it is more performance-based or related to standards of conduct, we would rather hear from you at the beginning, so we can help guide you and help, decide what would be a more appropriate corrective action to take. We don't want it to get to the point where you're calling us where you're so frustrated that you want them off site. So everyone on this call does a really good job of keeping us in the loop. So we just want to make sure that continues. One thing to know, AmeriCorps members can only be released at the program level. So if you're having issues with members, we need that documentation. We can't just get a call one day, that your member has been late so many times and you're just so sick of it and you want them gone. But if we don't have documentation, we're not going to release them. The only time we're automatically going to release the member is if it's some serious breach of conduct. So again, clear evidence of inappropriate conduct with a client, clear documented evidence of falsifying timesheets, things like that. Okay, and we are going to wrap up. Next step. So you're going to receive something from our office via Signwell, an electronic signature company. It's our service side agreement. You're welcome. If you'd rather print that off and sign it that way, or someone else at your organization needs to sign it, that's fine. We'll just need that back before the start of the program year. America Learns accounts, if you already have an account, nothing's going to change. We'll just transfer you to the new member whenever they start. Member and site expectations agreement. That was a document I referenced towards the beginning, where you're going to sit down with your member within the first 2 weeks of their service and work through your mutual expectations for what the year is going to look like. And then you'll send it back to our office. So you don't have that document yet. We'll send it closer to the start of the year. Site contribution. So there's a site contribution per slot. It's not paying for the member's living allowance or anything like that. It's the cost of participating in the program. You'll receive an invoice from our office. And if you need a quarterly payment plan, that is available upon request. Upcoming events, again, just to keep in mind, the AmeriCorps Year does start August 1st. Member orientation is August 17th through the 19th, so it is required that your member attends that in Frankfurt. AmeriCorps launch is in Richmond, October 26th and 27th. And then we will be coming to see you this fall in person. Our contact information is listed on the screen. Any general program questions or support that you need, questions on training, member onboarding, really just anything, feel free to reach out to me. Like I said, Hallie's on vacation this week, so if you have something urgent pop up, give me a call. Holly Dennis is our member coordinator. She is the member's first contact for any support or help that they need. And then Wendy Tucker is our director of finance. And if you have any questions on site contribution or membership, I can probably answer those questions. But if you want to talk to her directly first, that is fine as well. Our phone number is on the screen as well, our website, and then the tab for you specifically with resources is Homes for All AmeriCorps tab, and then it's site and supervisor resources. So that is all I have for you today. Looks like we're wrapping up at right around an hour. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for your time. Thank you for providing supervision and mentorship to our members, and we're really excited to work with you. So I'll stay on the line if you have any questions, and if not, you are free to get back to your day. Thank you so much.